And for that girl backstage, make it perfectly clear, never mind who you thought I was, I'm Rick James, bitch.
I know you gonna dig this.
Get funky with me.
What's going on, everybody? How you doing today? So here I am in Western New York. I am in Orchard Park. I'm parked on the side of the highway, and every car that goes by is stopping and looking at me like, what are you doing outside? Because it is freezing. I'm from Canada, I'm from Toronto, which is 2 hours north of Buffalo, and I'll go outside in a windbreaker in January, walk the dog or whatever. Here, as soon as I leave Toronto and get to a different city, I'm like, it's freezing. And I'm bundled up, but it is really, really cold, so I'm going to try to get through this. I'm here to talk about Rick James and Eddie Murphy, and then we're going to go visit Rick James' grave. Stop it, dog. Hold on. Let me get away from the dog so they can't see me. It's not going to make a difference. The dog, they sense I'm still here. It's a dog. Anyway, what are they doing? Rick James, Eddie Murphy. In 1985, they record. Eddie Murphy made a bet with Richard Pryor for $100,000 that he could sing. So at first, Eddie Murphy tried to record an album with Prince. It did not go well. He didn't like the vibe of Prince. Now, Rick James and Prince apparently didn't get along. So Rick James said, I'll do it, Eddie. Jesus. And they came here to this house right here. Now, to find this house here, let me flip it around. I should add that the people in this area, I just talked to 2 different neighbors, are so nice. And I'm just going to say that the people in that house lived here when Rick James lived here, and their kids were teenagers, and they spent some time in Rick James' house hanging out. What? Whoa, slow it down. So, Rick James wanted to make the album with Eddie Murphy because he wanted to get back at Prince a little bit. A little bit of a backstory there. But they came here for a weekend, but they got snowed in. And 2 weeks they spent here recording, partying all the time. Now, if there was snow on the ground, you might know what I mean by party all the time. Eddie Murphy did not indulge in those sorts of things. Rick James, famously, of course, did.
Look at notable people, such as yourself. I can't think of anybody, nor can you, that cocaine has helped.
No, you know what? It kicked my ass for many years. I don't know how I got addicted. I don't know why I'm a drug addict. Recovering drug addict. I have no idea. And God knows I had been in enough institutional rehabs, so death was really right at my door. That was my next option. And a lot of times it was a wonderful option, because a lot of times I actually did drugs hoping to OD and hoping not to wake up.
Now, to find this house was not easy. To find the exact house, I had to look online for a very long time and do a lot of research, property records and stuff, and I still wasn't completely sold. Until I found a clip, not even on YouTube. It's a very, very odd news clip of them coming to this house and showing Eddie Murphy in the studio working on a song. And it's a fascinating little clip. And there's a part where the interviewer is talking to Rick James, and it's the funniest thing ever, and I keep watching it over and over again, and it makes me laugh. It says Rick James on the bottom as they're showing Rick James talking. Then it cuts to the interviewer with the craziest expression on his face, just staring at Rick James, and it still says Rick James, then cuts it back to Rick James. It's my sense of humor. It's not supposed to be funny. I found it really funny. Now, but then they showed an outside shot of the house. Sure enough, it's the house.
The plans were helped when the area was hit with the worst snowstorm of the year.
And those archways, there's a couple of archways, cool ones inside the house. I've got 2 interior shots of the house from when Rick James lived there, which is really cool. And if you look around back here, you can see there's a giant building. I'm not sure what it looks like a garage, but I believe the studio was in the back of the house. And there was a pool. You don't have to. This guy's. Anyway, so I remember Party All the Time as I thought it was a good song. I was a little kid. I didn't realize that it was critically savaged. I knew it was a cheesy song at the time, kind of, and like, you know, whatever, but I thought everybody kind of knew that Eddie Murphy was just doing it as for fun. He was not leaving the acting world or whatever. But the song was a huge hit. Bit of a one-hit wonder. But of course, Eddie Murphy's not a one-hit wonder. But Rick James and Eddie Murphy were in that house recording Party all the time. I love it. I've got a lot of facts about Rick James in my head. We're going to go to his gravesite now, and I'm going to tell you some more things about him. And I've always been interested in his life. He had quite a trajectory and then quite a downfall. When he did pass away, I believe there were 9 different types of drugs found in his system that contributed to his death. I'll talk more about that when we get to the gravesite. But this house has seen it all, heard it all, smelled it all, sniffed it all. And now it's just a regular house, not owned by Rick James anymore. Yeah, or the Rick James estate, I should say. I wanted to say, you know what? I'll just give me a second and I'll think of some more facts to say, because there's or some interesting tidbits about Rick James, about how the life he led. But to be in that house when Eddie Murphy was there recording Party all the time, the clips, I'll show you them right now. I mean, I can't play it because it's got Party all the time going all throughout it, and I don't have the copyright for that, but it looks like they had a really good time.
As excited as Slick Rick about the sound they've developed. Did you ever envision the sound that's coming out of the speakers?
I didn't think it would come out like that. I was scared when we first came here, but now I'm like this. Did you hear the record?
So they were snowed in. I imagine back in the day, this is probably not, it was probably a paved road maybe, but not as well paved. And if you get snowed in out here, and it's snowing right now, it's going to be a little brutal. Yeah, the neighbors around here though, if you want to stop, this is Orchard Park, you'll find it. Jewett Hammond Road or something. And neighbors are really cool. I really enjoyed that they were really sweet to me, talking to me. Alright, that's Rick James' house. It's Rick James. So think of Rick James, and then think of a singer totally opposite of Rick James, like say Neil Young. Put them together. There was a girl from northern Canada. You know she was a super freak. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Alright, so we made it to Forest Lawn here in Buffalo, and so it's north of where we just were. And section 10, the very back of the cemetery, is Rick James. Straight ahead. Now, I said I'd give you some more facts about Rick James. I'm going to tell you something really cool that you may not know, and it's absolutely incredible. This one, well, he led a pretty incredible life. He was born here in Buffalo, third of 8 children. His uncle was Melvin Franklin, who was the bass vocalist of the Temptations. That's pretty wild, that his uncle was in the Temptations. But you see, in 1964, he fled the U.S. to a little city called Toronto, which is actually quite a huge city, and it's my city. He fled the U.S. Naval Reserve, and he ended up in Toronto. And from there, he formed a band Mynah Birds. And in this band, the Mynah Birds, was Bruce Palmer, who was later in Buffalo Springfield, and also another artist by the name of Neil Young. That's right, Rick James was in a band with Neil Young. They formed on Young Street, then in Yorkville, and Young Street back in the day was bustling. Now it's all glass and steel. Here's some pictures of what Young Street looks like in Toronto. It's one of the longest cities in the world. It's and to be around back in those times, 60s, 70s. I mean, Sam the Record Man, A&A Records, see there. That was, I don't know how long, they were probably from the 70s and 80s. And you know that song by the Bare Naked Ladies, Brian Wilson? Drove downtown in the rain, 9:30 on a Tuesday night, just to check out the late night record shops. Those are the record shops that they're singing about. But Rick James formed a band with Neil Young. Now, they recorded at Motown, but their songs were never released, partly due to because Rick James was AWOL, and then he got taken back to the United States. But they did have a song, I think it was called It's My Time, that came out on a Motown a compilation thing in the early 2000s, and it's a really good song. It's so cold, it's hard to even hold the camera, but I'm here for Rick James. James Ambrose Johnson Jr., February 1st, 1948 to August 6th, 2004. Rick James, I've had it all, I've done it all, I've seen it all, that's for sure. It's all about love, God is love. And there he is, the man himself. So it's almost impossible, like, to explain how cold Buffalo is in February. It's as cold as Toronto, I'm sure, right now. I'm south of Toronto, 2 hours south, but I'm gonna get through this quickly here. I wish it could be longer. Last time I came here was in the winter as well. I've been here before to see Rick James. I have a video of that. You can see it on my channel. I'll put a link below, because I also visited the grave of Kristen Pfaff, who was in Hole, Courtney Love's band, and she sadly passed away from a drug overdose. And so I put the two together on one video, and I think it was in my first or second year of YouTube. So not a lot of people saw that video, but I have been out here before for Rick James. But I want to do something a little different. So he left Toronto, not on his own accord. He was escorted back to Buffalo. But he began to write and produce under the name Terry Johnson. Then he went to LA, and he had a couple of bands, one called Great White Cane, and another one called Salt, Pepper, and Cocaine. You might see a theme there. Come on, Rick. But in 1977, this is when his career started to take off, because he left LA to return to Motown. He had a debut album called Come and Get It, and the singles You and I, Mary Jane. And his signature brand of funk took off. The king of punk funk. His biggest hit, of course, was Super Freak. That was on the album Street Songs. It included Give It To Me Baby, Fire and Desire, Ghetto Life, Teardrops, Cold Blooded, Glow. Man, so many hits. What's the other one I'm thinking of? Mary Jane, Fire and Desire, Give It To Me Baby, Give It To Me Baby. You know that song. I don't have to sing it. Great song. Oh, Super Freak, by the way, he wrote in like an hour or something like that. He was at 3 a.m. in the studio. He was just playing around the bass, and he was playing 4 descending notes, and they went like this: doom, 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 doom. And he kept playing that over and over again. He thought it was really cheesy, but it was fun. And somebody else in the studio said, "Hey man, that's hypnotic, man. You got to put that to a beat." And he's like, "No, man, it's just cheesy." And then Rick James himself started thinking, "Man, that does sound good." Doom, 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 doom. And then he started saying, "She's a very kinky girl." I'm not doing you justice, Mr. James, but that's what he kept saying. She's a very kinky girl. He wrote it all on the spot in the studio, recorded that night. right. I don't think it was one take, but off the top of his head. The kind you don't bring home to mother. Canada geese. I've been corrected many times, and it's not Canadian geese, it's Canada geese, and I should know that. I'm from Canada. Regardless, I don't like them, they don't like me, and I love animals, but we keep our distance. And you're on the wrong side of the border. Go home. So we know Rick James had a very troubled life. By the early 1990s, his cocaine use was really getting out of control. He was convicted of assaulting 2 women, spent 2 years in prison, paid $2 million in a civil suit. And then he was released in 95, I believe it was. He attempted to come back, but he suffered a mild stroke in 1997 that ended his career. And then he died after suffering pulmonary and cardiac failure at the Oakwood Apartments on Barham in Burbank, California, which is right near Warner Brothers and Universal. And that's the Oakwood Apartments are known for like child actors staying there, and actors that are during pilot season, bands that are on tour. It's a gated apartment complex. I drive by it all the time. It's right beside Forest Lawn, Hollywood Hills, which is crazy. But it's for actors and stuff that, just waiting around to see if they got the part, coming to LA, and maybe they've got an agent and they need to put them up there. So many famous people have stayed there. And sadly, a couple of famous people have died there. Rick James and our channel favorite, Corey Haim. That's where Corey died as well. So just to add in here at the end, he died from pulmonary failure and cardiac failure associated with his various health conditions of diabetes, a stroke, pacemaker, and heart attack. And there were 9 different types of drugs in his system, one of which was cocaine. However, the coroner stated that none of the drugs or drug combinations were found to be at levels that were life-threatening in and of themselves. The other thing I wanted to add is Rick James was nominated for 3 Grammys. Super Freak, Street Songs, and You Can't Touch This by MC Hammer. He won once. Guess which one he won for? You got it, MC Hammer, as co-writer. Alright, so that was my visit to Rick James. Mr. James, I wish I could spend some more time here, but my mouth is literally freezing and I can barely hold the camera. I'll be back in Buffalo. Buffalo's a very eclectic, cool city, and I would like to spend more time here in the summer. And it's right across the border, so I've been to Buffalo hundreds of times, and I'll be back in the summer. Maybe I'll be back to visit Mr. Rick James. It's Rick James. Oh, okay. And yeah, this is an incredible cemetery too. Section 10, at the back, Rick James. Rick James, rest in peace. Eddie Murphy, hope you're partying all the time. Right now in LA, Bill Hill's Cop 4 is coming out soon. What? We're getting old. Rick James, well, it's a good idea that's coming out. I don't mind seeing it. Beverly Hills Cop 4. He's been in the business for 4 decades. 4 decades? That's right. Rick James, rest in peace, my man. Peace out.